Welcome to the NerdLore podcast. We talk stories, theories, and lore. I'm one of your hosts, Shiny Shoes, and today I'm joined by Ghostwisper. He's going to bring us through the evolution of
World of Warcraft. Scrolling across the forums, I believe that a lot of people are fed up again with World of Warcraft, and I don't get why. Hello guys, so my name is Ghostwisper, or Ghostwhisper, depending on platforms. I'm a passionate gamer and streamer, and I've been playing World of Warcraft, well, since 7th grade for me, which is about 14, 15 years, I believe. To me, World of Warcraft is the greatest game that has been out there, but I start to feel that the game or the genre starts lacking something. Like, if you take a look at player counts, it started off in 2004, and by 2005 it had 1.5 million players, and it started rising until the mid of 2010, where it reached a peak of 12 million people. And then it started declining again, but sadly, they don't release their numbers anymore. So we can't really say whether it's going up again or going down. Now, obviously, with Shadowlands being released, we have an increase in players again. But in general, the numbers are going down. I will go into why I think that's the case a little later on. But first, I'd like to talk about what the memories are for me. Like, what was World of Warcraft back in the days? So first off, same for every game, it was something new. Like, you didn't know what to do, where to go, what the game was all about. You tried getting better, discovering new things. And the biggest part that has changed as of today, in my opinion, is the socializing part. So back in the days, I was playing with real-life friends, but I was also making friends in the game, just like you do it now on Twitch and maybe some other games. But I feel that that has changed a lot. Like, in the days, you actually took the time to talk to people in the game and not just use them for what you needed them for. You had guilds, groups, just talking with people in general, like when they were standing next to you. And I don't think that you really have this anymore.
No.
Now you just... Oh, sorry.
No. So that's actually like a good point. I think that's a issue with like a lot of MMOs right now. Not just MMOs, but online games in general. Like one of the biggest MMOs that I play is Destiny. Technically, I consider it an MMO, even though it's kind of got a little more different stuff going on. But I remember back when I played Destiny 1, which was a little bit ago. You could find people in game chat and talking, but now as I play it literally there's no one ever. So I kind of feel what you're saying on this. You're not getting that camaraderie anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you have groups in Destiny 2, right? And I guess that you still look for people if you don't have a full group. But during that, you only communicate the most necessary. And after that, the group just disbands and you don't talk to that person anymore. Like, I still have people that I got to know about 12 years ago now in World of Warcraft that I talk to. That's not happening anymore right now. You just invite them, do your stuff, and close the group again. So that's a little sad. Yeah, and most importantly, what was the case for World of Warcraft for me, it was having fun. Like, that's the main idea of any game, right? What has changed so far? So World of Warcraft was a very basic game. The NPCs couldn't do too much. Usually you only had bosses that had 2 or 3 abilities for the whole group, and normal enemies didn't do a whole lot. That has changed a lot. Nowadays, if you go into a dungeon, a normal mob can do more than most raid bosses back in the days could do. So game-wise, it has changed a lot. They changed the way quests work. Back in the days, you had to read your quest text to know where to go to. Later on, maybe have an add-on that tells you where you needed to go to. Now you just have a way marker that tells you to go there, and you do your quest. Same thing goes for gathering stuff for your quests. You had to kill 10 mobs to get one item, and that's just a made-up number. Sometimes it was less, sometimes it was way, way more. Nowadays, most quests just drop one item per mob that you need to kill, or even more if the numbers are bigger. But you get a more rewarding feeling if you do your quests because items just drop. They also changed the way how they set up quests. Back in the days, you had to run to several different locations that then sent you to maybe the same point to do 3 or 4 quests. Maybe you had just one quest there. Now you have quest hubs where you get 3 to 4 quests at once, and they usually are all in the same area, so you don't have to run around as you did in Classic or in BC maybe. BC being Burning Crusade.
Do you think that this maybe not necessarily makes the game easier, but it makes it less tedious for those new players, or do you think that's part of the draw to it, that they're trying to switch the way the questing is, or do you think it was just solely on the fact, hey, we're going to make this easier and faster?
I think the easier and faster way definitely is a good thing, but I also think that questing is, in general, a little outdated. Like, in my opinion, they need to come up with something new, because quests just don't feel right anymore most of the times. Like, with Shadowlands right now, as the quests are really new, like it's the first time we played them, obviously, they're okay. Some are even really funny, and they bring in a lot of puns. So that's fun. But if you're leveling your 3rd, 4th, 6th, or 10th alt, like then questing is just tedious. In general, like it doesn't matter if you have to run to 6 places or to 1.
So like, it's hard for them to do that though when you think about it. Like, how do you make leveling your 10th character enjoyable? And do we get to a point where we stop caring about leveling those 10 characters? So maybe we say, hey, once you have 5 fully leveled characters, here's a token to get more of them fully leveled, or hey, carry over progress between your whole account.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because it depends on which MMO you actually take a look at. In World of Warcraft, they usually were really bad when it came to the whole alt thing. Like, you had to do everything again: reputation, professions, gear, and so on. If you take a look at Final Fantasy Online, you still have to level your classes, but it's one character, if I remember right. Like, you don't have to level 10 different characters. You just have to level your class.
One character does it all. You just switch
That's
between.
a good idea. With Shadowlands, Blizzard actually learned a lot, in my opinion. Like, they implemented a lot of stuff they learned. You don't have to do the quests with your alts anymore. You can just do the intro quest, and then you can choose that you have seen it all already, and that you just jump over to the end game content, but you're still at a lower level. So you level through world quests, for example, instead of your usual storyline quests, which have cinematics in them and so on. So it takes longer to level with those. So they are thinking about innovating the quest system, and world quests, as I mentioned, was one of them. Like, they had daily quests and I believe weekly quests even in Classic. With Burning Crusade, they started using more daily quests for different factions. And then when Legion came, so about 12 years later, I believe that is, they actually started using... No, wait, Legion is 10 years later, I believe. So they started using world quests, which allowed you that you didn't have to pick up the quests anymore. You could just go to a place and do the quest because it was shown that you have it already. But I believe they still have to work on it. Then another thing that really has changed is that the game was, as I said, very basic. So you had little stuff to do. You basically had dungeons, weights, and PvP. And PvP even came in later on. Now they have so many different game types that they are splitting the community actively, and they have issues because not every community is accepted by everyone. And basically, everyone is disregarded for something. So you have, for example, the people who are still doing weights, you have the people who are still doing PvP. But even PvP, you have battlegrounds now that are divided into random battlegrounds or your categorized battlegrounds. But you also have weighted battlegrounds, which is a good idea, right? You want to bring the esports into this game. You have Arena, still in the PvP genre. Then you have, for the weights, you have 4 different difficulties. You have dungeons that are now endless in difficulty because of Mythic Plus. And that's just for the competitive part of this game. Then you still have people who just play the game casually, people who play this game just to collect mounts. You have people who play it as an auction house simulator. You have pet battles. You have so many things that even though you could have the same amount of people playing the game, it just feels like there is way less than there was before.
And you feel it's because of that split in that division. Basically, not everybody's doing the same thing anymore. Everybody's just doing what they enjoy doing. I can understand that.
Another thing that has changed is the experience. Like, this game isn't new anymore. And I believe it's really hard for new players to get into this game because there's so much to learn and so few people are willing to help you learn it. Like, it's, for me, as I said, I played this game for 16 years. No, wait, I've played it for 14 years. The game has been out since for 16 years. So the skill gap is increasing every day. Like, if you take a look at the classic bosses, they have been, with the release of World of Warcraft Classic now last year in August, they killed the first wave within the first day that people reached 60, and they didn't even have a full group of max level players. Back in the days, they didn't even know what a raid was, and it took them over a month to clear that raid. So there's a big difference, and people just don't want to spend their time to teach other people because they won't see them again. It's like I said, the socializing part is really not that big anymore. Guilds lost a lot of their value, in my opinion. And then something that has changed a lot too is the esports that 16 years ago basically didn't exist, or not in the amount that we have it now, and the competitive gaming in general. Like, if I wanted to see something or know how a boss works, 10 years ago, I usually bought a magazine and I read up on that stuff. Nowadays, I just watch a YouTube video or I go on Twitch. And that brings a lot of good things, but also a lot of bad things. Because I don't just get the neutral theory of the boss, but I also get the opinion of the person I'm watching. And that brings a lot of negativity to the game. The problem in general is that in the whole internet, elitism, self-entitlement, and negativity have dominated mostly throughout positivity. So, as I said, it's really hard to socialize in this game right now because most people just do their own stuff. And if you fail, they bash you. If they fail, it wasn't their fault. And I won't say that I don't do that. I believe that World of Warcraft is the only game that I'm actually a little toxic. Like, not a whole lot. I really try to keep it down and keep it more to myself and friends on Discord, for example. I'm usually not the person who bashes other people. But sometimes it really just hurts my eyes to see what people are doing. And that they can't just say that it is their fault. That's like my main issue.
My experience with raids always that one person that is too afraid to ask what they're supposed to be doing, so they have no idea, and you're like, so you get to wipe mechanics and stuff like that, where your whole team's going to go down if they're doing the wrong thing, and you're watching them because you're already done with what you're supposed to be doing, and you're doing it, and you're watching them, they're way off in the middle of nowhere doing something that nobody needs to be doing. And you're like, well, we have to wipe again, and you're like, are you sure you know what you're doing? Yeah, I know. All right.
Yeah, that's really a thing. The problem in World of Warcraft, ever since they brought in achievements, you can't really go in with random people anymore for weights because they are actually asking for the achievement of the weight to do it. So if you want to do a heroic version of weight, they ask you to bring in the achievement for the heroic version. If you want to do Mythic plus 15, most people ask for Mythic plus 18 already. And then you don't need that part anymore, right? If I've cleared the way 10 times already, I don't need to be in a random group that gives me the opportunity to get nothing. So that's something where I said that the elitism is really at fault here. Like, people don't want to waste their own time. They prefer getting carried, or at least have people with their own level of experience. And it just destroys the game because back in the days, you had everyone playing the game, and it didn't matter if you were good or not, because you could just carry other people. And nowadays, as you said, with the wiping mechanics, they have become harder and harder. So if you fail, you put more risk to the weight failing in general, and you just need people who are good. And that, again, just puts some problem between the community and the people playing the game.
But a lot of times, like that, the skill gap to be successful at raids, like, so, and again, a lot of my raid stuff comes from Destiny. I played a little bit of Guild Wars, a little bit of well, I play a lot more of all of them. But when you think about it, like, that skill gap in the raid, it's really difficult in Destiny because there are so many parts that are so specific, and it's like, we do this, and this. And if a character, let's say a character isn't good at jump puzzles, and part of the raid mechanic requires a jump puzzle, well, that person may be in charge of a bunch of wipes from your team because they can't figure out a simple mechanic that everybody else is doing. And the fact that that keeps that person from experiencing a raid, because the rest of the people aren't going to raid with them again. Even if they're in their guild, if you know someone's going to fail at the raid part every time, you don't want to spend 4 hours doing a raid. I want to do it in 30 minutes that it usually takes us and go on. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's a little bit amazing in my opinion, because I have no idea what changed over time. Like, if I take a look back at Burning Crusade, which was the first expansion that I actually waited, I didn't care if people failed. Okay, as I said, that's like 10, 11 years ago. But I didn't care at all. Like, if we failed, if it took us longer, we just waited it out. And if someone left, we just replaced them. And we went on. Now, even though Blizzard made it easier to replace people and not so punishing to kick someone, okay, maybe that's a problem too. But it feels like you need to get quicker through it. It's not like you want it, you need to. You're wasting your valuable time if you try to take a noob with you. And then there's the difference between real-life friends and gaming friends, right? If someone in-game is really good and you get along well with him, that's okay. Like, you ask him to come along for more dungeons, to more raids, and so on. But if he fails that in-game friend, you just replace him. A real-life friend, obviously, is a little different. You don't want to hurt your friendship with them. But
the show is offline.
Exactly. but what I'm trying to say is, 10 years ago, I felt the same level with the people that I met in that game. Like, I wanted them to get better. I wanted to keep in touch with them. I didn't want them to fail. Not because it was bad for me, but because it was bad for them. And that whole aspect has gone, in my opinion.
I mean, like I remember back when, buddy, that I would get off work every day and I Halo all day, doubles, ranked doubles, and both of us were just trying to get to 50. Top rank you could be, the greatest, you're the best Halo player you could be when you hit 50. And I remember all the time, like, I'd want him to be successful as much as he would want me to be successful. We play together in call-outs, and now, I mean, I don't remember the last time I was in a like online game where I had an open mic so that I could just...
I feel like we need to bring up another game when talking about all this positivity and negativity stuff. Have you ever played League of Legends?
Oh boy, I play team fight tactics because I think I've loaded into League of Legends one time in general. My very,
Okay. So, team fight tactics is actually very friendly.
Yes.
Like it's not that friendly from the community perspective, but it's still okay-ish. League of Legends is the worst when it comes to friendliness and the best when it comes to toxicity. Like, you basically have people griefing your game for no reason. And it's amazing because, to me, World of Warcraft and League of Legends are the two most amazing games that have ever existed. And those are the only two games that I could play day in, day out. But given the changes that we've been talking about World of Warcraft now, and given that hard negativity in League of Legends, I just can't play them anymore like I used to. That's really sad. If the game is actually really good, but the people are making the game bad.
I haven't played a lot of League, but I play Smite, MOBA, and
yeah,
very toxic. You get in ranked and you have people playing in the solo lane as like mages and stuff like that. They're like, yeah, no, I've got a really funny troll build that I can play as, and then you get just destroyed because they can't hold their... Or like, you're playing with a carry and I'm the support, and carry has no idea what they're supposed to be doing, but they chose to be the carry for your team, and they don't build boots, so they don't move as fast as everybody else for the game. And you're like, are you sure? And these are your rank placement matches that you're in there with those, and even though you go positive, loses, so you still gonna end up ranked like bronze or silver, because it doesn't matter how hard you try, you're always in a lobby with someone control character.
Yeah, that's just so weird to have in games.
Do you think that maybe because the popularity, when you think about these streamers, like your top streamers for League of Legends and your top streamers for like Smite, and then do you think a lot of them, because some of them do spend a lot of time trolling in the game, like that's what they do. Do you think that has impacted the community in a way?
It might have. Like, I'm not watching too many big streamers, so it's hard for me to judge that. The only big streamers I tend to watch in the last time were people from Offline TV for Among Us. And I guess you can see that people just adopt how they play. That's also a thing that I was touching on a little earlier when I said that you have YouTube and Twitch, right? You actually want to be like your idols, if you want to call them an idol. But sometimes you just don't see why they are doing stuff they are doing. Like, sometimes it looks like they're trolling, but they're doing something very good. And sometimes it looks like they tried something very good, but in their head they were just trolling.
Yeah.
And if you adopt the wrong things, it's actually bad for your rank, for your gameplay, and for the people you play with. Also, I believe that trolling is something that is funny if you are good at a game. Like, if you do something that's not supposed to be done, but you manage to stand your ground, that's no problem, right? But if you go 0-10 in the very first 9 minutes, Like that's not trolling, that's griefing. Like
Yeah, you're throwing.
You shouldn't be doing that because you're ruining the experience for everyone, at least on your team.
Think about some of those games last 30 minutes. No, like you queue into a lobby and just before it even starts, 30 minutes I'm watch this person just to lose my game.
Yeah. And then you have to play another 30 minutes, hopefully to win, to actually get back to the place where you were in your ranking. But yeah, there's a lot of different things that I don't like about the internet games today. Sadly, because I feel like it's the better kind of games usually. Like, I stream single players, and that's cool. But if I had to pick either offline or online games, it would always be online games.
Yeah, I want to play with people.
Exactly.
Me and some of the guys on the podcast, we had talked last week about video game history. And one of the things I got into talking about was when we kind of moved in our evolution of gaming, and when gaming felt like life again, and we all kind of talked about how online gaming or gaming with your friends really is what pushed gaming forward for us, because it's fun and everything to sit there and play Mario Brothers by yourself all the time. But, once you get the ability to bring all your friends together and you're all doing something together and you're having fun, you're joking, that's what makes gaming special to us. And that's kind of where we landed on it. So I agree. Like, I want to play online. I want to play with others.
Yeah, I believe the most important part about games is not how well is the game, but which memories do you take from that game? Like, did you have a game in your childhood that you were playing non-stop? For me, for example, it's Pokemon. Like, I'll probably not play Pokemon anymore, but that's for a different reason. That's nothing got to do with Pokemon. Do you play with friends and something very funny happened that was 5 years ago, but you still talk about it? Like, I'm not going to talk about a game that I played when I was a kid just because it was a good game. Like, I need a memory that I relate to that game or to a specific moment. So I think to wrap my part up is to talk a little about how I feel about World of Warcraft now, to get back to the main theme of our podcast here. Like, I obviously can't deny that a lot has changed. World of Warcraft isn't the same game anymore that it was 12, 14, 16 years ago. It's a game that I have always loved. There were better, there were worse expansions, but I will probably, just like with a lot of other games, keep playing it whenever something new comes out. But I feel like I lose interest and I can't do the same thing over and over again, even if there's progression. And sadly, I know it's not really possible for Blizzard to get the content out quicker, because then they leave other people on the road. Then my biggest issue right now, no matter how great Shadowlands seems, the lore finally needs to come to an end. And I guess that's fitting to the name of this podcast, right? NerdLore.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about the lore in World of Warcraft at all, so maybe a quick dive into that. You started off as a little pawn who just tried leveling and doing errands for people. That's the basic World of Warcraft. Over the years, you defeated more and more powerful foes, and the main characters of the story actually started recognizing you. Like, you were the champion of Azeroth, or Azeroth being the World of Warcraft, for the whole last expansion. I don't remember your title for Legion anymore. Right now, the game just keeps going and bringing bigger and bigger enemies. And my favorite saying since release of Shadowlands is that it needs to come to an end because even the series Supernatural has an ending.
Right.
so,
Here.
so at some point you just need to end it, and it just feels like they can't go on and bring bigger and bigger enemies, because you're always thrown off and you feel like, hey, I just defeated the most powerful enemy known to the world, and now we have someone new, and suddenly every single enemy is stronger than I am again, or at least stronger than the biggest boss before. Like, that's not really making sense to me. It needs to come to an end. Maybe the idea of World of Warcraft 2, I have no idea, but bring it to an end with those characters.
So a couple like neat things that you brought up there, like a World of Warcraft 2. I have some other things. I like that. World of Warcraft 2. Hey, we wipe and start you over. The only thing I know about that, though, is that's a very polarizing thing to do. Destiny 2 wiped all your character from 1. They took all your gear, all your loot, dropped you in a second game. Still as powerful as you were, like your level was high, but everything was so much stronger now, and you no longer had all the stuff you used to have. So if they did bring a World of Warcraft 2 out, maybe they kill your character, or Final Fantasy did something really neat with their world. They had an extinction event where they pretty much destroyed the world and then rebuilt it. So how do you think player base would respond to, hey, you spent this, aren't you in a different world?
For the player base, it's really tough to make that call, because again, as I said, you have split the community into so many small communities that it really depends on what's actually happening. If, for example, you take everything away from the player and just leave the world, obviously the auction house farmers will complain about losing all their gold. If you do it just to the equipment, it's okay, but then there's just too many different aspects that might ruin the experience, because you put a lot of time into it, and I believe there's no makeover that could happen that would not make you feel hurtful. It's a tough call. Like, I don't know. I probably would enjoy it if they did it well. Again, it depends on whether it's a good thing, or if it's just, hey, let's bring out World of Warcraft 2 for the sake of having a second game. That would be a bad thing.
I'm not saying that they would. Do you think that they would still use the world of Azeroth, or do you think they would, hey, let's build a new world or new place that we can, upgrade them, maybe learn from our mistakes, make something better? I don't know if they'll make a WoW 2. Most MMOs, they just continue bad guy. Like you said, canonically, it's got to stop making sense at some point.
So in 2014 or 16, I'm not sure of the year exactly anymore, they actually said that they had content for at least 10 more years. So we're getting closer to that date, but if 16, it's still 6 years, right? If they would bring in a whole new world, I fear that the game would actually destroy itself, because a lot of people actually play it because they know the character. They have a relation to what's happening. They are happy that Blizzard brings back people like Illidan, Uther, Tyrion, and so on. And if they make a completely new game, you don't have that. We basically start from scratch, and we have what I was talking about in the very beginning, right? It's that new game, you try to get better and discover new things. The problem with that is that I fear that MMOs in general are not as successful anymore as they were in the early 2000s, maybe end 2000s. It's a game genre that's dying out slowly, in my opinion. Like, maybe Amazon can convince more people with New World, But if you take a look at all the MMOs that have come out in the past 10, 15 years, we don't really have a very big one. No single game was ever able to compete with World of Warcraft in the numbers. Like, I believe Final Fantasy still stands its ground because of the lore, again, that people know the characters in, and just the fans playing the game because it's Final Fantasy. Not saying it's a bad game, don't get me wrong. It's just very hard to release a new MMO right now.
There are two of them that are coming out. There's a New World, and then somebody else is doing an MMO also. But like you said, risky, because I have 4 written down besides WoW that are still alive, but not necessarily. I'm not saying they're flourishing, but I have Guild Wars, Final Fantasy 14, WoW, and Elder Scrolls. I mean, that's
okay.
For MMOs. That's the only ones that I think are still alive.
I'm not sure if Guild Wars 2 is really competing still.
Yeah.
But you definitely have Black Desert Online still, which
because they moved to mobile on that. That probably helped it out a lot.
Also in the Asian market, they're still quite big. But that's also an Asian grinder. So it's very hard for the civilization from the West to get into that game because it's just so different. I believe you have some others. Yeah, you have some other games that are still going. But if I had to take a guess, I would say that we will be going away from MMOs in general and have more stuff like Genshin, maybe improving on the playing together parts, and stuff like Monster Hunter and so on. So stuff that you can do everything alone, but you can also do everything in a group. That's what I think will be the next MMO way to go.
Talked about a little story. Like, I got partnered with the MMO Terra.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played it. I have heard about it.
So they released it and they made a partner program. It was like 14 or 15 of them. They're like, hey, you guys are our content creators. So we had a whole conversation with them. They asked us questions. We would stream it or throw up YouTube videos. Whatever they wanted us to do. But we had whole conversations about what we expect, like feedback and stuff. And one of the feedback that half the group would give is like, would you guys be willing to run like PvP tournaments and stuff like that? Like, make this game some way like esports. Would you make dungeons where we could do dungeon challenge raids and stuff like that? And they said, we as a game don't really worry about the esports side of it. We just kind of story and everything. I said, well, I get it, but if you don't have some kind of like challenge mode or anything, do you feel like your game will be successful? And they're like, yeah, we're still going to be fine with that.
I was about to say.
It didn't go well, and like half of us, like we had eventually left the program because even I was like, hey, I'll run the tournaments, I don't care. I was like, I'll even give away my codes for gear and stuff like that so that they can, as the prizes. I was like, all I need from you guys is give me publicity on it, or say, hey, this is a sponsored tournament. And they're like, no, we don't really want to sponsor those kind of things.
Yeah, I guess you really need esports nowadays. Not necessarily esports. Again, taking the example of Genshin, like, it started out huge and it started dropping again as soon as people were through the content. And that's what helps you stay relevant, right? If you have esports, if you have stuff that's never ending, people will still play it. But if I take a story game, let's take Assassin's Creed, for example, a game that I have been streaming for over 80 hours, like Odyssey. Once you get to the end, once you have done everything, you don't play that game anymore. I haven't opened it anymore since I stopped streaming it. Not because it's a bad game, not because it's missing something, but there's just nothing else to do. I have done everything. And that's what brings esports into the discussion. Like, if you have at least people talk about the players, about what's wrong with classes or what's good with them. If you have competition, if you try to get better for a reason, like I don't need to be the best player in any game, but if it was my goal, it would be in a game where I could actually win something doing it. Like, I have no reason to be the best. What can we take? I really don't find something right now. Let's say We Were Here. That's like a puzzle game a puzzle co-op game. I really don't intend to be the best We Were Here player because there's nothing to win from it. So that's why I think games nowadays need esports, or at least never-ending content, without it feeling imposed on you. Like, give people something that they can do, but they don't have to do. And I believe Blizzard is doing that well. The problem is just that they're expanding into too many different locations. Like, they will have a big problem, I believe, once they have to put in more servers together. Because it's just like, you have, let's say, 20% of the people doing dungeons. Then you have 10% doing raids. How are you putting those servers together if you're not having enough people anymore later on?
Yeah, I don't know. Hard for him. Well,
yeah.
So, basically, you come to it. So, I guess the last question would be like, are you happy with the Shadowlands DLC? How do you feel about it?
Oh, currently it's really hard to say. I mean, Shadowlands has been out since Tuesday here, midnight. For you guys in the US, it was Monday, I believe. So I really enjoyed it. I was awake for 32 hours the first day when it released. I played through it all. I had 1.5 hour break until I played Among Us like the next day later on in the evening. And then I went back to World of Warcraft instead of going to sleep. It's a fresh wind. It looks like they learned a lot from their mistakes. They did a lot of small things really good. But again, I'm a very positive person, right? I tend to see the positive things earlier than the negative things. And just scrolling across the forums, I believe that a lot of people are fed up again with World of Warcraft. And I don't get why. Like, so far, it's a good expansion. You have people complaining about taking it too long, taking not long enough to get to level 60. You can't please everyone. And I believe that's the problem with World of Warcraft. It will probably, again, once everything's out and you just do the content for the content's sake and wait for the next content, will be at a place where my friends and I playing together, but not because everyone is enjoying it. It's more like one person trying to motivate 3 others or 4 others to play with them. And then that person eventually starts losing the motivation, and the next person picks it up again. And then that person starts to motivating it. So, but I believe so far it looks like a very good expansion. If you haven't played it, I would suggest to take a look into it, especially if you're a player who has played it in the past, but have skipped several expansions. Take a look back at it. It's really getting close to what it was before.
So, if people wanted to talk to you or find you, how can they find you? Where?
Well, on Twitch, obviously as a streamer, it's Twitch TV/Ghostwisper lol. Remember that? Oh, I just see it now. You have misspelled my name. Like,
No.
you have used the white thing. It's Ghostwisper, but whisper without an H. So I know that whisper gets an H, but that's actually a World of Warcraft story. I had my very first paladin named Ghostwisper, and the character was only allowed to have 10 characters, like the name.
Yeah.
So you couldn't use Ghostwhisper in the white spelling because it was too big. But yeah, on Twitch it's Ghostwhisper LOL. On Facebook it's Ghostwhisper or Ghostwhisper LOL 2. I'm not sure, but you will find me with both, I believe. I have a YouTube account, but I don't post that much there. So maybe later on now with World of Warcraft, we will see.
I hope so. Listen, I fixed it. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah, I saw it. It looks better now.
Okay, good. That's my bad. So basically, this has been the evolution of gaming and kind of where WoW is right now. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop in the comment. Make sure to give Ghostwhisper a follow on Twitch, Twitter.
No, not using it.
Twitter, all right. No. Find him on YouTube and Facebook. And this has been the NerdLore Podcast. Thanks for listening.